Welcome back to Can We Be Strangers Again? In the previous parts, we followed Dev through a roller coaster of emotions, from the spark of first love with Avantika to the complexities of their secret relationship and the unexpected bond he formed with Tanishka. We saw friendships tested, hearts entangled, and the shadow of the past lingering in the form of Mahol. Part 2 left us with Dev at a crossroads. His proposal to Avantika was accepted with a condition: their shared moments, the growing suspicions about Avantika's connection with Mahol, and the heartbreaking fallout with Tanishka after his confession. Now, in Part 3, prepare to delve deeper into Dev's emotional turmoil. Will his relationship with Avantika survive the doubts and secrets? Can the broken bond with Tanishka be mended? And what new challenges await him on his journey of self-discovery? Tune in to find out. The Unfair Court of Friendship, January 7th. I was ready, really ready, to make her birthday unforgettable. I had planned everything, down to the smallest detail. I was going to surprise her at 11:30 with a cake, just like she had surprised me. Once. I reached her PG, my heart racing a bit as I knocked on her door. She opened it, and there she was, sitting in her usual spot. I sat down next to her, a smile already forming on my face, ready for the moment. But something was off. She looked at me like there was something she needed to say. "Basu, I need to tell you something." I smiled, trying to act casual, even though I felt a knot tightening in my stomach. "Yeah, sure, tell me." "Tanishka, I'm in a relationship," she said. Her words hit harder than I could have ever imagined. I wasn't prepared for the jealousy that followed. It crawled inside me, unexpected and raw. She was just my friend, my best friend. And yet, I felt this unbearable sting, like I was losing something I didn't even realize I had. "Who?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "He's coming to meet me now. You'll meet him too." Meet him? My heart sank. I didn't want to meet him. I didn't want to see the person who had taken her away. But how could I say no? I never could when it came to her. I tried to act normal, as if it didn't bother me, but inside I was a mess. Why? The word slipped out, and it wasn't even a question, more like a desperate plea. But what right did I have to ask? I was with Avantika, wasn't I? I was in a relationship too. Yet here I was, feeling like I was losing something much more important than I had ever realized. At that moment, it hit me. A female best friend can either have a boyfriend or a best friend, but not both. It should seriously be a law, like a legitimate court order. I felt like the sidekick in my own story, suddenly sidelined because someone else had entered the picture. Before I could say anything more, there was a knock on the door. She got up to open it and walked in on this guy, a 6'1" gym freak, with muscles bulging out of a crumpled t-shirt that looked like it hadn't seen an iron in months. And those jeans? They were barely hanging on. Honestly, his whole vibe screamed, "I don't care about basic hygiene, but I can bench press a car." His worst dressing sense I had ever seen. If I didn't know better, I would have thought he was a bouncer at some shady bar. "Hi, bro." "I'm Mihir," he said, his thick Jat accent rolling off his tongue like a punch to my pride. I forced a smile, my face struggling to keep up with the fake politeness. Inside, though, I was a mess. Every word he spoke felt like a reminder of everything I was losing. It was like someone had flipped a switch, and now I was the outsider in a space where I once belonged. We cut the cake together. Earist bite. She was confused. But she gave it to me. Han, that was a sign. Maybe it felt like a sign. Like maybe, just maybe, I still mattered. Meanwhile, Mihir stood there, staring at us like he was missing the point. I couldn't help but think, why the hell is he even here? His whole presence felt like an intrusion. a reminder that things had changed. The small talk that followed only made things worse. At one point, मन कर रहा था कि जाके उसका मुंह नोच लूं. My hands were shaking, my thoughts spiraling into a chaotic mess of jealousy and anger. And then, after what felt like hours of forced smiles and fake laughter, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Turned to him, trying my best to sound polite. Mihir, can you please come back later? I need to talk to Tanishka. He gave me a look like I had just insulted his entire family. And, glancing at Tanishka, he said in his thick accent, It's her birthday, bro. I think I should be with her. I forced a smile, but inside I was losing it. Bye. Tu abhi aaya hai. Just leave for a bit. I knew what I was doing wasn't exactly right. I mean, I'd lose it if Avantika's best friend tried to pull this with me, but I didn't care. I needed to talk to her, and I couldn't wait anymore. Mihir looked back at Tanishka, probably expecting her to throw me out or something, but she sighed and said, 15 minutes, Mihir, please. He hesitated for a moment, his brow furrowing like he was trying to figure out if he should punch me or not. But finally, he nodded and left the room, muttering something under his breath that I didn't catch. As soon as Mihir left the room, Kya majburi thi tujhe isko boyfriend banane ki. The words came out almost instantly with frustration and jealousy laced in every syllable. Tanishka turned to me, her expression unreadable. I didn't want to get caught in your mess with Avantika, she said, her voice calm but firm. You never treated me like I mattered when she was around, Basu. Even when you were with Avantika, you barely talked to me. You know that, right? And she is coming the day after tomorrow, and mujhe fir se wahi experience nahi karna tha. Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. And the worst part? She was right. All this time, I had sidelined her, unknowingly pushing her aside for someone else. Now, I was paying the price for it. I don't want to see you with him, chorde isko abhi, please, I blurted out, the jealousy and frustration boiling over, spilling out before I could stop myself. She didn't even inch. Her eyes were calm, but her words were a dagger. I gave you the choice, Basu. Me or Avantika. You made your decision. And there it was. The cold, harsh truth I had been avoiding all this time. I had made my choice, and in doing so, I had lost her. She took a deep breath, her voice softening, just a little. I'm sorry, she said, and this time, it wasn't an apology for anything she had done. It was for what I had done. Her voice trembled slightly, and I could see the pain behind her eyes. I've already suffered too much, Basu. Mihir and I started dating yesterday. I can't go through this again, not knowing that you might just sideline me when Avantika comes back. I can't bear the thought of being pushed away again. Every word felt like a dagger twisting deeper into my heart. The jealousy I had felt earlier morphed into a new kind of ache, one that came from the realization that I had taken her for granted. I had been so wrapped up in my own confusion and feelings for Avantika that I hadn't considered what I was losing in the process. I don't want to see you hurt, she continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her eyes. I can't keep waiting around for you to make a choice that's already been made. It hurts too much to be a second choice. Her words cut deeper than I thought was possible. I sat there, speechless, watching her, my heart shattering into pieces I knew I'd never be able to put back together. Tanishka looked away, and for a moment, the silence between us felt louder than anything else. 15 minutes later, Mihir walked back in. For him, it seemed those 15 minutes were plenty. I've always had a problem with people whose names start with M. Mahul, Mihir, Manavit. It's like there's a universal rule for them to annoy me. Mihir walked in and stared at me, like I had stolen his protein powder. Ho Gaya? He asked in his thick Jat accent, breaking the uncomfortable silence. Tanishka nodded. Han. And just like that, The air in the room froze. Air was no conversation. Nothing. We sat there quietly, as if waiting for something to happen. Mihir sat there like he was waiting for me to leave, and I was silently wondering when he would finally go. Tanishka, on the other hand, seemed like she regretted having us both meet in the first place. I thought, maybe it's better if I go. But I didn't want to leave, and when I finally stood up, ready to walk out, Tanishka spoke up. "Where? Are you going?" I'd question. It was a relief. At least she still wanted me there, for whatever little that was worth. But Mihir? He didn't say anything, but I could feel his jealousy burning holes in the back of my head. His eyes screamed, "Why does this guy get to stay?" A thought crossed my mind. Male best friends are practically designed to make boyfriends jealous. And that day, I believed it more than ever. Before I could process it further, Mihir finally broke the silence. "Milte hein kal," he muttered through gritted teeth, barely able to conceal his irritation. And with that, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The second the door closed behind him, something shifted. The air that had been thick with tension became soft, fragile. Tanishka and I looked at each other, and for the first time in months, it felt like we could actually talk. And we did. We talked about everything. Every hidden feeling. Every misunderstanding. Every hurt. We cried together. Long, painful tears that seemed to wash away all the unsaid words between us. It was like we were trying to heal wounds that were too deep, and she promised me not to share with anyone, and promises are meant to be kept, and came the hardest part. Tanishka looked at me, her eyes wet with tears, and said, "Basu, this is our last meeting. Hum ab se nahi mil rahe hain." The words shattered me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And just as if fate had a cruel sense of humor, her phone buzzed with a series of notifications. Mihir's name flashed across the screen repeatedly. His messages were pouring in like a flood, one after the other. And all those messages were for me. "Kitna chutiya hai tera best friend." I couldn't help myself. I looked at her and said, "Tu usko chhod de. He doesn't deserve you, Tanishka. He's a lousy, insecure guy." "I know," she said quietly. Tanishka stayed quiet, her eyes focused on the messages, but she didn't respond. We both ignored the buzzing phone, pretending that it wasn't there. I tried to salvage the situation. "I'll talk to Avantika this time. I swear things will be different." She just gave me a sad smile. "2 boats? You're going to put your feet in 2 boats, Basu?" And there it was. The truth I didn't want to admit, staring me in the face. She was right. I was trying to have it all, and in doing so, I was losing everything. "Please leave," she said softly, but firmly. "Forget everything. Let's be strangers. Avantika's coming the day after tomorrow. You'll have her, and that's all you need, right? I can't do this anymore." I hesitated, searching her face for any sign of hope, but it was gone. Just before I walked out, she added, "Basu, love in moderation, okay? Don't indulge too much, or you'll stop seeing other people, your friends, because for one, you'll lose everyone." I knew it was over. I had lost her that day. Not in the way you lose someone to death, but in a way that leaves a void inside you that never quite feels whole again, no matter how hard you try. I walked out. The weight of everything, settling in. I had lost my best friend, and with her, I lost a part of myself. The pretense. The next day, Tanishka and I didn't interact. It was like we had both agreed to pretend that our world hadn't shifted on its axis. Avantika arrived, and it felt surreal. We all met like nothing had happened, as if the previous day's emotional turmoil had been a figment of our imaginations. Tanishka seemed to have moved on, her smiles brighter as she talked to Mihir. I watched from a distance, a pang of jealousy gnawing at my insides. I lost her because of my own choices, and now she looked happier than ever. It twisted something inside me, the thought that I never made her feel valued enough. I turned my focus to Avantika, determined to give my 100% to our relationship. If can't be a good best friend, I can at least be the best boyfriend. I wanted to create a space where nothing could go wrong, where no one would feel hurt. We spent time together, and for the most part, everything seemed perfect. We laughed, shared secrets, and for a while, I almost believed that Tanishka was just a fading memory. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. I missed Tanishka's laughter, her insights, and the way we could talk for hours. It was different with Avantika. She was fun, but I couldn't help but feel like I was putting a bandage over a wound that needed more than just temporary relief. One afternoon, while we sat together, I finally voiced what had been on my mind. Avantika, can we make it public that we're dating? She looked at me, her expression shifting. I don't think it's the right time yet, Dev. I felt a familiar disappointment wash over me. Why not? It feels awkward being just friends in front of everyone, especially when we're not just friends. She shrugged, avoiding my gaze. I just don't want to rush things. We'll get there, I promise. The conversation hung in the air, awkward silence stretching between us. I smiled, but inside I felt a mix of confusion and frustration. Everything about my life felt complicated, tangled in the web of feelings I hadn't fully addressed. As much as I tried to focus on us, I couldn't shake the thought that Tanishka was happy with me here. And that was the hardest pill to swallow. Breaking point, I was trying to give my all to the relationship with Avantika. But as the saying goes, when you give someone your all, they start taking you for granted. Everything seemed okay on the surface. I still remember the day, March 16th. Avantika shared a PG with Tanishka, and I wasn't exactly keen on visiting all the time. One afternoon, Avantika told me she was on her period and asked if we could skip our usual meetup. I'm really tired today, Dev. Can we please meet another time? I nodded, trying to mask my disappointment. It's nah. You rest. We can catch up later. After leaving, I decided to play badminton to clear my mind. As I walked, I called her to check if she needed anything, but there was no answer. I bought her favorite cheeseburger pizza, hoping to surprise her. An hour passed, with no response. My concern grew, and I decided to check on her. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I heard footsteps inside, but the silence stretched on. 15 minutes later, Tanishka finally opened the door, looking confused and slightly disheveled. As she spoke, I could smell the faint scent of alcohol on her breath. "What's wrong?" she asked, a hint of irritation in her tone. "I wanted to see Avantika," I replied, my frustration bubbling. "But she won't let me in." I could see me here in the background, and the sight stung. I had no right to question him or what was happening behind that closed door. "Just let me see her," I insisted, but Tanishka shook her head. "She's sleeping. You can't go in." And, out of nowhere, Avantika appeared in a black crop top, her lips painted in bold red lipstick, and there was a spark in her eyes that suggested she hadn't been sleeping at all. My heart raced. "What happened? Are you okay?" I asked. In an angry mode, she snapped. "I told you, I'm not seeing anyone today. Why are you here?" Something shifted in her eyes, a defensive stance I had never seen before. She was looking past me, and I knew someone else was there. I felt rage boil inside me, especially when Mihir said, "Chal bhai, let's go, leave them alone." "Stay out of this, Mihir. It's my personal matter," I shot back, my voice rising. I turned back to Avantika. "Can I come in?" She pulled my shirt, desperation in her voice. "No need, just go." But I couldn't leave. My mind wouldn't let me. I pushed past her into the apartment, her grip on my shirt loosening. The sight that met my eyes was a punch to the gut. 2 pizza boxes and a bottle of vodka sat on the table, accompanied by 4 chairs, which meant there was one more person in the room. I rushed to the room where I saw the footsteps, my heart pounding. And there he was, Mahul, one of the ugliest people I had ever seen. It seemed Avantika had asked him to hide away, and the sight of him made my blood boil. Everything shattered in that moment. My mind went blank. I stumbled back into the hall, fury and heartbreak colliding. I kicked the table with all my strength, sending the pizza and vodka crashing to the oor. The day of revelation. That was the day. I finally understood why people drink, why they smoke, why they do anything to numb the pain. Each ache inside was too much to bear. I needed an escape, a distraction, anything to keep my mind from spiraling deeper into the mess I was in. I ended up at Pavni's place. When she opened the door, I saw a girl sitting on the couch with her. I was in no mood for introductions or small talk. In my head, I was like, who the fuck is this? But I didn't care enough to ask. I needed to talk to Pavni, and this random girl wasn't about to stop me. Pavni, I need to talk. Now. Her eyes widened, catching the seriousness in my voice. She stood up, excused herself from her guest, and led me to the balcony. We weren't exactly best friends back then, but she was the only person I could talk to at that moment. Someone who might help me make sense of this madness. And now she's my bread and butter, the one constant in all this chaos. But that night, I didn't spill everything. I couldn't. The whole Tanishka thing was too raw, too complicated. So, I stuck to Avantika. I let it all out, how she'd made me feel like a fool. How she turned everything on me in front of everyone, acting like we had never been together. Pavni listened quietly, her face growing more shocked with every word. You've been dealing with this on your own? Pavni asked, disbelief and a hint of anger creeping into her voice. Why the hell didn't you say something sooner? I shrugged, trying to keep it together. Truth? I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to put it into words, how to explain the mess that had become my life. How do you even start? It wasn't just some breakup story. It was this tangled web of betrayal, confusion, and losing parts of myself along the way. I don't know, Pavni, I muttered, my eyes fixed on the distant city lights, avoiding her gaze. I guess I didn't want to make it real. Talking about it makes it real, you know? Pavni leaned back, crossing her arms, her eyes narrowing as she thought. Dev, Ekbat Bata, Avantika and Mehul. Do you think they were, hooking up? Or were they just there? I sighed. The thought had crossed my mind 1,000 times, but hearing it out loud felt like a punch to the gut. They must be. Why else would she hide all this from me? Pavni raised an eyebrow. Exactly. If it was nothing, she wouldn't have done all this. As Pavni and I sat there, talking in low voices, the door to the balcony creaked open. I glanced up, barely registering her presence at first. It was Palak, the uninvited guest I hadn't even noticed until now. She was our classmate. Her lips held a cigarette, dangling in a way that reminded me of Avantika. For a moment, I just stared, the déjà vu of it all hitting me like a wave. Everything okay, guys? Palak asked, her voice cutting through the silence. Kaya hua hai, Dev. You look a little off. Pavni was quick to respond, probably a little too quickly. Nothing, Palak, just some college-related stuff, sorting it out. But Palak wasn't dumb. She looked at both of us, her eyes narrowing, like she knew something more was going on. Still, she didn't push it. She just took another drag from her cigarette, exhaling slowly. I couldn't help but ask, Kaya milta hai cigarette pika? What's the point? She blew out a stream of smoke and shrugged. Acha lagta hai best relaxing. For a second, I just stared at her. Then I reached out, my hand open. Pass it. I took 2, maybe 3 drags of the cigarette. The smoke hit my lungs, and for a brief moment everything felt lighter. My mind, which had been racing nonstop, started to slow down. It was strange, how something so small could calm the chaos. Palak, leaning against the railing, flicked her cigarette. Bhai, peg khatam nahi karna? She asked Pavni, her tone casual but knowing. Pavni turned to me. Tu piyega kya, Dev? Without hesitation, I nodded. Yes. And that was it. 1 peg turned into 2 or 6. With each drink, the tension between us melted away. The more we drank, the closer we got. Alcohol has this way of turning strangers into friends. By the 4th peg, it felt like we had known each other for years. Somewhere between the 4th and 5th, I started talking. Really talking. I shared everything. Avantika, Mehul, the whole mess. I spilt it all to Palak, and for once it didn't feel like a burden. But Tanishka, she was like the last piece of chocolate, too precious to share. Secrets, our promises. No matter how intoxicated I was, I couldn't bring myself to talk about her. Some things stayed locked away, untouched by even alcohol or conversation. Being sidelined, I wasn't really enjoying the company of Palak and Pavni anymore. I tried to laugh, tried to be present, but it felt hollow, like something was missing. Maybe it was Tanishka, or maybe Avantika. Hell, I wasn't even sure anymore. Whenever I saw Tanishka and Mihir, it was like they were ripped out of some romantic drama, happy, glowing, perfect. I felt a pang of jealousy hit me hard. There they were, looking disgustingly happy, while there I was, feeling like the forgotten page in a book she'd already finished reading. And then there was Avantika. I couldn't escape her either. We were in the same class, and every time I saw her, she was glued to her phone, always texting that bastard. It was like I didn't exist anymore, just a ghost watching from the sidelines. Late-night calls, I was just trying to move on, trying to make sense of everything. Most nights were spent overthinking, staring at the ceiling, wondering how it all went wrong. It was one of those late nights when my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. Tanishka calling. Without a second thought, I picked up. "Hi," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I really can't talk much," she replied, her voice sounding distant, almost hesitant. "But, tu think hi?" I paused for a second, searching for words. Yeah, trying to make sense of it all." She sighed. "Main teko warn that it was too early." I couldn't argue with her. She had warned me, but at that moment, it didn't make it hurt any less. "But think I," she continued softly. "Jo bhi hua, forget everything, move on, meet someone new." I couldn't help myself. "You moved on, right? Happy with me here?" There was a pause on the other end, and then she replied, her voice sharper than before. "Much happier. At least I have someone who knows not to make me feel sidelined." "Han?" I muttered, feeling a sting in my chest. Why, this call?" She hesitated, her tone softening. "You were my friend once, and I just wanted to know if you were okay." I took a deep breath, forcing a smile she couldn't see. "Okay." After the call ended, I sat there, staring at the phone. Tanishka's words played on a loop. "You were my friend once." Were. Past tense. It hit harder than I expected. I stood by the window, watching the city lights. Everyone else had moved on, but I was still here, stuck between memories and what could have been. trapped in the silence where the past refuses to fade. I reached for the pack of cigarettes on the table. Palik's influence, I guess. I didn't even like smoking. But that night, it seemed like the right thing to do. I lit one and inhaled deeply, the smoking filling my lungs, and for a moment, the ache in my chest dulled. I wanted to call someone. Pavni maybe, or even Palak. But it didn't feel right. They weren't part of this story. Not the real one. The one buried deep beneath all the casual conversations and late-night drinking sessions. A one I couldn't share with anyone. I thought to myself, Tanishka was right. I needed to move on. I needed to let go of whatever I was holding on to. But how? How do you just erase memories of shared moments of everything that once mattered so much? Searching for closure time passed, but I felt stuck, trapped in the same loop. Every time I walked into the classroom, there, she was, Avantika, always on her phone, laughing and chatting away. I was sure it was Mehul on the other end, and that thought twisted like a knife in my chest. No matter how hard I tried to focus on anything else, I couldn't escape her presence. It felt like a constant reminder of what I had lost and what she had chosen instead. I needed answers, and I needed them quickly. I couldn't keep living like this. I needed closure, proper closure. If I was ever going to move on, I needed answers. Why did she cheat? What went wrong? Was it me? Did I do something? I opened WhatsApp, scrolling through my contacts until I found her name. Her chat wasn't at the top anymore. It felt like ages since we'd spoken. But I took a deep breath and typed out a message. Can we meet once? Seconds felt like hours as I waited for her reply. For what? She asked. Ekbar? Or, you want to make this a scene like you did at my PG? She again messaged, just want to meet. No drama. I sent back. After a moment, she responded, last time? Yeah, I replied. My place? Fine, she said. 15 minutes later, she arrived. Avantika walked in, and as she sat on the bed, I settled into the chair across from her. It felt strange. Last time, we'd lounged together. Everything so intimate and comfortable. Now we were miles apart, both physically and emotionally. Why did you call me here, Dev? Avantika broke the silence, her voice tense. I took a breath. Just tell me why. Avantika, why did you cheat? Do you think I cheated? She shot back defensively. And why were you hiding, Mehul? I pressed, trying to keep my cool. She looked away, frustration evident. I knew you would react. That was the main reason I didn't want to tell you. And I promised Tanishka I wouldn't mention it. Why didn't you accept that we were dating in front of everyone? I asked, my heart racing. Because Mehul was there, she exclaimed, her eyes finally meeting mine. If he saw us together, he'd tell my mom. And I didn't want to create any mess. You know how she is. He came to say goodbye since he's going back to college, so we were partying. I felt a surge of anger mixed with confusion. So, you chose to hide everything instead? She shifted uncomfortably. You always seemed off with Mehul. And for me, I can't just leave him. He's my ex, but we've known each other since. Class 3, I can't break my friendship with him, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. My mind was struggling to digest this, but what should I do with all of this? Am I just supposed to accept it? I looked at her, my mind racing. Are you telling the truth? Swear on me. She held my gaze, calm and composed. Yes, Dev. I'm not lying. Don't you trust me? Stared at her, trying to end the truth in her words, but everything felt so tangled. I sat there, torn. Should I believe her? Could I trust her words after everything that had happened? Why were you always talking to Mehul in class? Every time I looked, it was like you were glued to your phone, chatting with him. She sighed, almost annoyed now. I wasn't always talking to Mehul. I was talking to Sneha. I was sharing everything with her. Yeah, sometimes I talk to Mehul, too, but not always. It's not what you think. The room fell into an awkward silence, heavy with the weight of unresolved feelings. My heart was torn between wanting to believe her and the anger that still lingered. I couldn't shake the doubts. Before I could respond, she leaned in suddenly and kissed me. It caught me off guard, and for a second, everything else disappeared. The confusion, the hurt, the questions, it all melted away in that moment. If I think about it now, girls always have that card to play. Something they can use to erase their mistakes. It's like a secret weapon they can pull out when things get messy, and guys often just fall for it, forgetting everything else in an instant. After that moment, I looked at her and said, "Please, aage se kuch mat chupana." I needed honesty. No more secrets. If I look back now, I realize I was also cheating, emotionally at least. Avantika had no clue about Tanishka, that we were best friends at one point, or why I suddenly stopped talking to her. Lost in illusions, passed, and things gradually started healing between Avantika and me. We were together, but a part of me still couldn't fully accept it. But maybe that's what love does to people. It makes you do things you never thought you would. Sab sahi lag raha tha, like everything was falling into place. But I knew deep down I was living in some kind of illusion. We were together, and as time went on, I found myself forgetting about Tanishka, at least trying to. People often use something to heal their pain. Maybe I was using Avantika to forget Tanishka. One distraction to replace another. I was always feeling insecure with Avantika, especially when she talked to Mehul. It was like this constant knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Even though we were together, the shadow of him always lingered, making me question everything. When I shared all this with Palak and Pavni, they didn't hold back. "Dev, प्यार में लोग अंधे होते हैं, और तू छनिया हो गया है," Palak said, shaking her head. Pavni chimed in, laughing. "सही बोल रही है ये, तुम्हें खुद भी नहीं पता क्या चल रहा है." The summer internship final year of college brought with it the much-anticipated summer internships, a chance to step out of the classroom and into the real world. It was a defining phase, where every student had to leave the comfort of campus and prove themselves at an actual company. Everyone received internships in different cities, scattered across the country. Avantika and I, too, were placed in separate locations. She got Rajasthan, which just so happened to be where Mehul lived. But I couldn't say anything, right? I wanted to ask her if she had chosen it for that reason, but instead, I stayed silent. While everyone was excitedly discussing their internship offers, my mind drifted to Tanishka. I wondered how she was doing, where she had been placed. I wanted to ask, but it never seemed like the right time. We barely spoke anymore. Conversations had become limited to brief exchanges about college work, and even those felt awkward, like there was something in the air that neither of us wanted to address. Amid the buzz of excitement surrounding our internship placements, I caught a glimpse of Tanishka standing alone in the corner. Her usual spark was missing. She seemed distant and withdrawn, like something heavy was weighing her down. It was clear she wasn't as happy as before. I wanted to ask if everything was okay, but I hesitated. It felt easier to avoid the awkwardness that had grown between us. As the days passed and the internship break approached, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Finally, just before we left for our internships, I saw her sitting alone in the campus courtyard scrolling through her phone. It was my chance. "Up. Is everything new?" I asked, trying to sound casual, hoping she'd open. She replied with a simple, "Yes." Her tone was vague, and it was clear. She wasn't interested in building any more conversation. I guess she didn't want to share. Or maybe I wasn't the person she wanted to talk to anymore. As silence hung between us, I turned away, realizing the distance between us had only grown. I couldn't help but wonder, was it too late to X this, or had we both moved too far apart to ever go back, and I chose to just exit quietly. Summer break. As the summer break began, we both left for our respective internships. Avantika and I talked regularly, but our conversations were more routine, about work, daily life, and how we were managing. Everything felt smooth between us, almost too smooth. It was as if the complications of the past were fading away, and I found myself gradually forgetting about Tanishka. One night, when I was on a call with Avantika, my phone suddenly vibrated. I glanced down and saw Tanishka's name Ash on the screen. Without thinking, I quickly told Avantika, "Papa ka call aa raha hai," even though I knew that wasn't true. I wasn't sure why I felt the need to hide it from her, but I did. I called Tanishka back, and she answered, "Agar tu busy hai, to baad mein call karti hoon." I felt a rush of happiness just to hear her voice. "Nahi, beta. Kya haal hai? Kaisi? Hi too?" I asked eagerly. "Sab theek hai," she replied, but her tone was neutral. We started catching up, asking each other about our lives, how everything was going, and where she was interning. It felt so good to reconnect, and I found myself wishing it could last longer. Finally, I asked, "Aaj achanak aise kyun call kiya?" "Bas aise hi," she replied. After some small talk, we ended the call. As soon as I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that she might have been missing our friendship, too. There was a sense that she wanted to tell me something important, but I didn't want to pry. The thought lingered in my mind, making me wonder what she hadn't shared. So, I texted her, "Is everything new? Sab thik hai na?" She replied with a simple, "Yes. Kal baat karte hain. Good night." I typed back, hoping for more, but accepting the silence. The next day dragged on, each hour stretching longer than the last as I sat in the office, staring at the Excel sheet. Numbers danced around like they were mocking me. Why was I even interning here? I was never good at math. Finally, as night settled in, I gathered my courage and dialed Tanishka's number. After a brief conversation, I asked, "Is there something on your mind? I know we're not as close as we used to be, but if you want to share, I'm here." She paused before opening up. "It's just, Mihir has changed completely. He treats me like an object, like I'm just there for him when he needs something. His friends are his priority now, and I feel like I don't even matter. He brushes me off whenever I try to talk and tells me to hang out with my friends instead. It wasn't always like this. I used to mean something to him, but now I feel invisible." My heart sank at her words. "Why are you still with him?" I asked, struggling to understand. "Because I love him," she replied, her voice wavering. Again, she said, "You haven't left Avantika yet, have you?" "You're right," I said, feeling the weight of her words. I wondered how love could make you do anything, even prioritize someone else over yourself. It was as if love often blinded you to your own worth. "Why didn't you tell me all this earlier?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to risk my relationship," she admitted. "Mihir doesn't like you, and you know how insecure he was at my birthday." I felt a pang in my chest. "Has Mihir become that important?" She responded, "You've done the same. You chose Avantika over our friendship." Her words hit home, and I realized the irony in both our situations. If I look upon now, I see that we were both grappling with the same struggle. No one was truly happy except Avantika and Mihir. The weight of choices, as the days of our internship rolled by, Avantika seemed busier than ever. I would call her, but she often brushed me off with a "baad mein baat karti hoon, busy hoon," or simply ignored my calls altogether. One day, tired of the same routine. I casually asked, "Are you planning to meet Mehul?" She hesitated for a moment. "Might be, but I don't know." As her vague response hung in the air, I felt a familiar ache settle in. It was like a reminder that when she wasn't around, it felt as if she didn't care or love me anymore. The distance was palpable, and it made everything feel starkly different, like we were living in two separate worlds. And then, as if on autopilot, I found myself dialing Tanishka's number every time. It just felt easy talking to her. No pressure, no drama. After all, we were just friends, and besides, she was in a relationship too. Our conversations were natural. We laughed about silly things, gossiped about teachers, and even mocked our classmates' terrible fashion sense. At one point, we realized Avantika and Mihir were practically twins, both experts in drama. 2 months passed by like a blur, happiness fleeting as it always is. On the second to last day of our internship, Tanishka dropped the bomb. "Basu, now that we go back to college, we won't be able to talk like we are doing right now," she said, her voice trembling through the phone. I felt a lump in my throat. "Why? Is Mihir really that important to you?" She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. "I can't risk losing him, especially when he's already so insecure about you. I don't know how to balance it all." "So you're really going to let him dictate who you can be friends with?" I asked, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "It's not like that," she protested, her voice rising. "I care about you, but Mihir needs me. We can still be friends, just not like before. More like acquaintances." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. The sting of her words hit harder than I expected. "You're doing the same thing I did with Avantika. Choosing love over friendship? How did we end up here?" "I didn't want it to come to this," she replied, her voice trembling. "But things have changed. I don't want to hurt Mihir. You know he'll create a scene if he finds out I'm talking to you. I just can't do it. It's like he's become my priority now, and I can't risk that. I'm sorry." At that moment, I felt an overwhelming rush of emotions. Suddenly, I cut the call, unable to bear the weight of her words any longer. It hit me like a wave. I realized this wasn't the same Tanishka I once knew, the one who had given me a TED talk about love in moderation. Now she was treading the same path I had feared, and jealousy clawed at me like a relentless beast. It was clear. Mihir had taken my place in her life, and I was just a lane she'd turn to when she needed comfort. Returned to reality as the internship came to an end, I headed back to college, but this time, excitement was nowhere to be found. It felt like stepping back into a world I had momentarily escaped. Back when everything was online during COVID, life had its complications, sure, but at least I knew what to expect. Now it felt like the ground beneath me was shifting again. I texted Avantika, letting her know I'd be reaching out at 4 p.m. She had already arrived that morning, likely all set up and ready to dive back into college life. It figured she'd want to meet up, so I added a casual "Milte hi" to my message, hoping for a warm response. When I landed and switched off flight mode, my heart raced at the notifications. Ere it was, one from Avantika. Han. Just that. No further elaboration, no excitement. It felt a bit like déjà vu, the familiar feeling of uncertainty creeping back in. Determined to make the best of the situation, I stopped by a nearby shop, picking up some chocolates and a bouquet of flowers. A small gesture, but I hoped it would spark something. Maybe remind her of the good times we shared before everything got so complicated. Back at the PG, I texted Avantika that I had arrived. "Whenever you're free, we can meet," I added, keeping my tone light yet hopeful. After about 20 minutes, my phone buzzed with her reply. "Okay." When she finally walked into my room, I grabbed her by the waist the moment she walked in, pulling her close as I whispered, "Hi, Miss Kargosh." That nickname always brought a smile to her face. I leaned in, rubbing my nose gently against hers in a way that only we understood. With her still in my arms, I slid her to the study table and reached for the gift I had gotten, some chocolates and flowers. "For you, my Kargosh," I said softly, watching her reaction. She smiled, taking the gifts from me. "Thank you." But something in me wanted more than just polite thanks. I leaned in closer, my fingers tracing the curve of her waist, my voice dropping to a teasing whisper. "Itna busy thi tu? Time nahi mil raha tha mere liye bhi." She sighed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear in that way that always drove me a little crazy. "Nahi, काम था ऑफिस में नियर समझा कर," she replied, her voice softer now, but distant. And, with a small mischievous smile, she added, "Ab bas college ke last 6 months bache hain." I smirked, pulling her even closer. "अब बस कॉलेज के लास्ट 6 months बचे हैं, और बस कुछ नहीं, सिर्फ तुम और मैं, और बहुत सारा सेक्स," I whispered, as my lips drew close to hers. She laughed, pushing me back playfully. "haan, nikal. Ja kisi aur se le le," she teased, her eyes sparkling as she played along with the irritation, but I didn't let go. My grip around her waist tightened as I pressed her against me. "Itni hot bandi ke hote hue, kisi aur ke paas kyun jaun?" I murmured into her ear, my breath brushing against her skin. Her teasing demeanor faded for a second as she looked into my eyes. "Mir se umid mat rakh." I pulled her even closer, refusing to let the moment slip. Taking that as my cue, I gently brushed my thumb across her cheek, leaning in slowly until our lips met. The kiss was soft, unhurried, like we were savoring every second. Her laughter quieted as the moment deepened, and I could feel her heartbeat syncing with mine. My hands caressed her waist, pulling her closer, her body fitting perfectly against mine as the kiss grew more tender, more intimate. It wasn't just about the physical connection. It felt like we were lost in each other, wrapped in a warmth that neither of us wanted to let go of. I lifted her gently, her legs instinctively, wrapping around me as I carried her to the bed, our breaths mingling, her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer with every step as we fell together onto the sheets. At that moment, the outside world had ceased to exist. As my lips traced their way down her neck, I felt her shiver beneath me, her breath catching with every kiss. Her skin was soft, warm, and intoxicating. I moved lower, my lips exploring, savoring every inch. But as I reached just below her ear, my lips brushing the side of her neck, I froze. A mark. Small, faint, but unmistakable. A hickey. My heart skipped, my breath stilled. I pulled back slightly, my eyes X'd on it, the warmth between us suddenly shifting. For a moment I stared, my thoughts racing as 1,000 questions swirled in my mind. As I pulled back, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, I straightened up and stared at her. Before I could say anything, Avantika, sensing my hesitation, asked, "Kya hua?" Without thinking, I blurted out, "Ye hickey kisne diya, Avantika?" She looked at me, eyes wide, then burst out laughing, trying to brush it off. "Pagal hai kya tu? Kya bol raha hai?" "Arey, koi kirde ne kata hoga ya kuch mark ho gaya hoga," she replied, waving it off casually. I wasn't buying it. "Itna bhi chanya nahi hu ki hickey, aur kirde ke kaatne ka difference nahi pata chalega." She smirked, rolling her eyes. "Kirde ne kata hai sach mein." I stood there, my fists clenched, unable to let it go. "It's Mehul, isn't it? That's why you've been distant. Why you've been too busy for me." She looked at me, her face hardening. "Are you serious right now? Tumhara dimag kharab ho gaya hai? You're just making things up." "I'm not blind, Avantika. You've been avoiding me for weeks, ignoring my calls. And now, this is Mark." I pointed at her neck, my voice rising with each word. "Don't tell me it's nothing. Awaz niche rakho. Dev, she hissed, glancing toward the door. You don't have the fucking right to shout at me like this. Can you explain it to me? Why him? Why did you do it? My heart was racing, a mix of anger and hurt oozing every part of me. My voice rose again. You think I'm stupid, Avantika? It's him, isn't it? Mehul. That's why you've been avoiding me, right? Busy with office work? You've been lying to me this whole time. Pagal ho gaye ho tum, she shot back, her eyes narrowing. You don't know what you're saying. Don't I? I yelled louder, stepping closer. Stop lying. You think I can't see it? You've been with him, haven't you? That's why you've been so distant. And then, without warning, smack. Her hand connected with my face, hard and sharp. The force of the slap left. My cheek stinging, and I stumbled back a step, completely taken off guard. She looked at me, her eyes burning with fury. How dare you? She shouted. तुम्हें कोई हक नहीं है मुझ पे आवाज उठाने का. You think I owe you an explanation? You think shouting at me gives you control over me? I stood there, my cheek throbbing, my mind racing. I couldn't believe it. She actually slapped me. Anger mixed with hurt, confusion clouding my thoughts. I clenched my fists, my voice shaking. Why, Avantika? Why would you do this? Why would you lie to me? Her voice dropped, cold and nasal. Jo sochna hai socho. I don't care. Bas. I'm done with this. Done with you. Without waiting for my reply, she turned and stormed toward the door. The sound of it slamming behind her echoed in the empty room, leaving me standing there, still reeling from the slap. Slowly, I turned toward the mirror hanging on the wall. Eyes hollow, filled with anger and regret, my cheek was red, but it wasn't the physical pain that hit me the hardest. It was their realization of what had just happened. How did we get here? How could I let it go this far? How could I be so blind? The weight of everything hit me all at once. Her walking away, the silence between us, and the mess I had created. I stared hard at myself, choking on reality. I had lost her. Maybe long before tonight. Funny how the ones who say they'll never hurt you always do. I grabbed my phone and called Pavni and Palak, needing someone to talk to. They arrived quickly, looking concerned but curious. As we settled down, I took a deep breath and shared the whole messy story with them. As I say, the tears came to my eyes. I took a deep drag from the cigarette I had lit, trying to calm my racing thoughts, but the tears started spilling over. Seriously? क्या तुम्हें लगता है वो इस ड्रामे के लायक है? Palak added, concern creeping into her voice as she watched me struggle. Pavni, sitting beside her, shook her head, her expression softening. बिल्कुल, हमने तो कहा था कि वो लड़की ही छांटा है. तुम उसके पास क्यों गए फिर? Her playful tone couldn't mask the genuine worry etched on her face. Chal, Romat, Palak said softly, reaching out to comfort me. ऐसे चुना लड़कियों के लिए क्यों रोने लगा है? तुम बेटर डिजर्व करते हो. सन, तेरा कैट का पेपर है 27 नवंबर को. अभी ये सब छोड़ दो और पढ़ाई पर फोकस कर. Pavni insisted, her voice firm and caring. Air words echoed. In my mind, a painful reminder of the choices I had made. And the tears flowed freely as I realized just how deep I had fallen into this mess. Listen, Dev, Palak said, her voice gentle yet firm. We'll always be here for you. But you need to sort this out. You can't let her drag you down like this. Pavni added, Exactly. Focus on yourself for a change. You've got your exams coming up, and you need to give it your all. Chal, hum chalte hain. Oda time do apne aap ko, Pavni said, standing up. Bhai, sab theek ho jayega. Palak reassured me as they both prepared to leave. Thanks, guys, I murmured, feeling a mix of gratitude and despair. Echoes of the unsaid time passed, and with each class, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Avantika was there, right in front of me, chatting animatedly with someone on a video call, her laughter ringing in my ears like a cruel melody. It felt like she was teasing me, like a cat playing with a mouse. My heart ached, and I couldn't focus on anything else. My gaze was glued to her, a magnet drawn to a constant source of confusion and pain. Sometimes I questioned myself. Kaya meri galti thi? Uski thi? I couldn't figure it out. All I knew was that instead of an apology, I had received a slap of reality, a stark reminder that she had moved on, while I was left shattered, struggling to pick up the pieces. My mind was a foggy mess, and when the time for my CAT exam approached, I realized I couldn't even focus on studying. I was too busy replaying every moment with Avantika, trying to decipher if she had truly cared. It was ridiculous. I wanted to share all these thoughts with Tanishka, but she seemed so absorbed in her so-called love story. Shattered Focus October rolled in with its familiar chill, yet it felt oddly empty. We hadn't spoken. No messages, no casual hellos, nothing. It was as if we were ghosts, ignoring each other's presence even when we shared the same space. I was trying to move on, focusing on preparing for my exams, drowning in quant problems that felt like a never-ending nightmare. They say, time plays a vital role in healing. Time doesn't erase the pain, but it does teach you how to live with it. I thought, trying to make sense of it all. Each passing day was a step toward acceptance, or at least that's what I told myself. In the midst of this chaos, I found solace in unexpected places. Believe it or not, I became surprisingly good at smoking. It was a ridiculous coping mechanism, but at least it provided a distraction. Pavni and Palak were my constant companions, and despite their boyfriends being a pain in my side, they always kept me entertained. One day, as we sat together, I couldn't help but tease them. Honestly, I think your boyfriends are more trouble than they're worth. Tum logo ka taste mere se bhi kharab hai, I said with a smirk. Pavni rolled her eyes and laughed. haan, इसीलिए आज तो यहाँ बैठ के अपने डिसीजंस रिग्रेट कर रहा है. पलक chimed in. Exactly. और हम दोनों खुद के लिए भी तुम्हारी तरह रिग्रेट नहीं कर रहे. तुम्हारे टेस्ट का क्या कहना भाई? I chuckled, but deep down, their words struck a chord. It was true, while they teased me. I couldn't shake the feeling that my heart still ached for Tanishka, someone who understood me better than anyone else ever could. Even as I tried to keep my spirits up with my friends, the absence of Tanishka felt like a void I couldn't fill. The return then, 14th of October, was just around the corner again, looming like a quiet reminder. His year felt different. The people I had relied on, those who once filled every corner of my life, had faded away over the last 2 years. Sure, there were friends around, Pavni, Palak, and others, but the ones I truly wanted by my side, they weren't there. Pavni and Palak had planned a surprise for my birthday. They set everything up at my place, trying to bring back the spark, the excitement, but I wasn't feeling it like before. I didn't have the same energy, the same sense of anticipation. It was just another day, another reminder of how things had changed. Around 11:55, there was a knock on the door. Palak got up and opened it, and I heard a familiar voice. My heart skipped a beat. When I walked to the door, I saw her, Tanishka. She stood there, looking just like she always did, and for a second, it felt like time had stopped. But before I could even process it, I saw him too. Mihir, sitting on his so-called bike, waiting to drop her off. He didn't say a word to me, just glanced my way for a moment, then left without a second look. I closed the door behind her and turned around, my mind racing. I couldn't believe she was here. You're here? I asked, the words slipping out without thought. She teased, her voice light. Kaya, maine jao phir? I quickly said, Nahi re matlab how? Tanishka brushed it off. ये सब छोड़, केक काट ले पहले या गेट पे ही मुझे सब पूछना है? We all laughed and gathered around as I cut the cake. After the celebrations, Tanishka handed me a gift, a sleek HRX jacket. His jacket is easily the most precious thing in my cubicle. Not that I don't own expensive stuff, but this is different. It means something more. After a few rounds of funny banter with everyone, I pulled Tanishka aside to the balcony. Tu kaise aayi? I asked, genuinely curious. She smirked. अरे, तुझे खुशी नहीं है तो मैं चली जाती हूँ. अरे पगल, ऐसा थोड़ी है. I quickly responded. मिहिर ने कुछ नहीं बोला? I asked, knowing how things had been between them. She sighed. 2 घंटे झगड़ा करके आई हूँ. I had to convince him that I had to be here tonight. And she began sharing the whole story. What happened between them, the arguments, the reasons, everything. We stood there, the cool night breeze brushing against us, and I gave her a friendly hug and said, "Thanks for coming, G. I really wanted you to be there और अपने boyfriend को ऐसा समझा दे छनोड़ा है वो." She laughed, giving me a light punch on the arm. "Chup ho ja," she muttered, but I could see the relief in her eyes, like she'd needed this too. After that, we all laughed, our drinks in hand, the room filled with the kind of carefree chaos that only comes when everyone's high on alcohol. People were cracking jokes, making fun of one another, and for a while, it felt like everything was just easy. Around 4 a.m., there was a knock at the door. Tanishka's ride had arrived. Mihir. He was here to pick her up. She waved bye to everyone, a half smile on her face, saying her byes before slipping out the door. The laughter in the room lingered, but there was something about her leaving that left a void behind, at least for me. As the door clicked shut behind her, I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. At day, I realized something. Tanishka and I would always be friends. No matter what happened, no matter who came or went, I wasn't going to let her go. But I chuckled to myself. बस इसके लिए मिहिर को जान से मारना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि ये लड़की इसके प्यार में बिल्कुल पगल हो गई. Hi. Waiting on the inevitable college days were also ending soon. Only 4 months were left. Our focus had shifted from studies to placements and other distractions. Classes felt like a formality now, with everyone more concerned about landing jobs or just surviving the last stretch. Lectures became background noise, and the campus vibe was all about the future, interviews, resumes, and, of course, the constant pressure to figure out what came next. In all this chaos, I was surprisingly chill. My results were out, and I scored 91/90 in my CAT. For a general category student, achieving this felt like breaking a curse in today's hyper-competitive world. I was thrilled, especially since it was my first attempt. I could almost taste the success and the excitement of getting into a good college. Everyone congratulated me, except Avantika. As I walked through campus, a wave of gratitude washed over me when I remembered Tanishka. She had come through for me during our summer internship break, lending me money to fill out my application form when I was completely broke. Although I returned the favor a few weeks later, I wanted to acknowledge her kindness in a small way. So, I decided to give her a chocolate, a simple token of my appreciation. Even though our conversations had dwindled to just the occasional hi or hello when we passed each other in the corridors, I wanted her to know that her support meant a lot to me. When I gave her a chocolate, she simply said, "Thanks, koi zarurat nahi thi." But I wanted her to know how much it meant to me. I found myself wishing for Mihir and Tanishka's breakup once college was over. I knew it was wrong to hope for someone else's relationship to end, but I had always blamed that bastard for the distance between Tanishka and me. The final countdown months passed, filled with interviews for different colleges. I was on a mission, determined to end the best fit for myself. The PR cells of some colleges were doing a fantastic job, spinning tales of grandeur and dishing impressive placement packages. After talking to a few alumni and getting a sense of the real experience, I had finally made a decision for my future. I accepted the offer letter from IIM Goa. With that achievement, the reality of college ending started to sink in. Days were dwindling, and we regularly counted them down like it was a countdown to a rocket launch. "Only V days left," I'd shout to my friends, and they'd roll their eyes, laughing at my dramatic air. 4 more days, I'd declare the next day, and the excitement in the air was palpable. Finally, the countdown hit 0, and the day arrived. Our farewell. Party. It was a bittersweet moment, the last day of college, a culmination of laughter, tears, and memories we'd forged together. We were all dressed up, ready to celebrate what had been an unforgettable journey. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of something new. That day, my steps felt unsteady as I approached Avantika. I took a deep breath and asked, "Can we talk for a minute?" She nodded, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "Why?" "Aaj sach bata de," I pressed, trying to keep my tone light, though my heart raced. With a sigh, she replied, "Yeah, it was Mehul. And seriously, it was just that one time." I looked at her, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. "I'll remember you for a lifetime," I said, my voice steady. "You taught me that love shouldn't be blind. Because of you, I learned to keep my eyes open." As the weight of the past hung in the air between us, I added, "And thanks to you, I found my best friend." I nodded, feeling a sense of closure wash over me. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving behind the remnants of a relationship that had taught me so much. As I stepped into the fresh air, I felt lighter, ready to embrace whatever came next. Old rhythms, new realities. After college ended, we were all gearing up to step out of our comfort zones and embark on our own journeys. With my college starting in June, I went home for a few days to recharge. One day, feeling a mix of nostalgia and hope, I called Tanishka, secretly hoping that her breakup with Mihir would have finally happened. "Hi Basu, kya hal hai?" she answered, her voice bright. We fell into our old rhythm, chatting like nothing had changed. It felt good to connect again, to share laughs and catch up on life. Ease between us reminded me of all the good times we had shared, and for a moment, I forgot about the chaos that had come before. After a few minutes of casual chatter, I mustered the courage to ask, "So, are you and Mihir still together?" "Yeah, we are," she replied, her tone surprisingly light. I could sense she was still mad for him, but I didn't push it. I knew she didn't really want to dive into that topic. Maybe she wasn't comfortable, or maybe I wasn't important enough for her to share those parts of her life with me anymore. So I let it go, and instead, we talked about the good old college days, laughing at shared memories like nothing had changed between us. But deep down, I knew something had. As days passed, the duration of our calls kept increasing. I was free, and so was she, and it felt like we were slipping back into the easy rhythm we used to have. But every now and then, when Mihir called her while we were on the phone, she'd cut my call immediately. It was clear who was more important. I didn't say a word about it, though. I just went along with it, reminding myself that I was just her friend now. Imgo, and after weeks of waiting, June Nally rolled in, and there I was, Goa. I was about to join the Indian Institute of Management Goa. Sounds crazy, right? I mean, who wouldn't be excited about this? IIM, new beginnings. It all felt like a dream. But within 2 months, that dream crashed hard. I realized I was in hell. Hell because this campus ran on just 3 hours of sleep, enough to survive the next. 21 hours of madness. Friendship? Nah, it was all about forming diplomatic connections, carefully choosing your circle, because everyone was playing the long game. And if you were seen hanging out with someone of the opposite gender, rumors EW faster than campus Wi-Fi. People would jump to conclusions like, oh, they must be hooking up. But the real punch? At 20 lakhs we all invested? Yeah, not for the learning or the professors. Nope. It was for one thing and one thing only. Placements. Everyone was there for that golden ticket. As for the professors, if you dared to ask them to review your paper, they'd just look at you and say, stop cribbing. And those exams? The midterms. You'd get the results of your last midterm during the next midterm. Efficiency at its best. It was a campus where the teachers had less power than the students, or those infamous cells running everything. I was one of the youngest in my class, and the subjects felt like a throwback to school, like I was sitting in standard 1 to 10 all over again, mugging up facts without a clue. Critical thinking? Who needs that when you can just memorize everything, right? But they took discipline seriously, only when it came to students, of course. If you were even a second late to the exam hall, bam, you're out. No second chances. But when meetings were supposed to start at 9 on and the authorities strolled in at 9:45? Oh, that's totally cool. They had a proper smoking zone. Like, wow, what an achievement. But if that zone got too crowded, no worries at all. Just light one up in your room with the doors closed. Discipline at its nest, right? A place where toxicity reached its peak, where everyone was competing against everyone else, whether in class or for placements. There was no escaping the rat race, and then there was relative marking. Oh, joy. If your peers scored just 1 mark higher than you, guess what? Your grades took a nosedive. It was like being stuck in a never-ending game of who can stress more. My escape in the chaos of MBA, in the midst of all this chaos, I found myself sacrificing an hour of sleep to talk to Tanishka, the girl who brought my energy back. We spoke regularly, and even though Mihir was in her life, who cares? I was getting what I needed from those conversations. Just having her in my life made me genuinely happy. At 1 hour felt like magic. It wasn't about me pouring out my entire day. It was her sharing hers. She'd start off with, "Tujhe pata hai basu, aaj kya hua?" And it could be anything. A kid showing up on our oar, followed by his frantic mom searching for him. I listened to her with full concentration, completely awake and engaged, as she regaled me with the most boring yet amusing stories. Each word felt like a warm hug in the middle of a storm. It didn't matter that I was navigating through the whirlwind of deadlines and exams. For that brief moment, the world around me faded away, and all that mattered was Tanishka's laughter and the magic of our connection. When friends become confidants very day, my morning officially began with Tanishka's good morning text, around 10 a.m. of course. She girded anything before 10 was still part of last night. Days passed by in a blur, and we grew closer with each one. From her side, it was becoming more than just casual chats. As for me, I had always been close, at least as a friend. I still remember, she was the RST person I called when I converted IIM Goa. At moment felt big, but what felt even bigger was how she started sharing things she held close to her heart, stuff she wouldn't tell just anyone. A way she shared with me. It reminded me of the bond we used to have, and all I wanted was to get back to that place we had before. The one I felt I had lost. I guess this was the moment I could nally ask about me here. So, one night during our usual call, I casually brought it up. "So, how's everything going with me here? You guys doing okay?" She sighed. "Where does he even have the time? We barely talk anymore. He's either at the gym or stuck in the office, and by the time night rolls around, he's already asleep by 10. He doesn't even call me." I decided to press a little more, the typical best friend question creeping in. "Tujhe dikhta kya? Hai usme?" She paused before responding, a teasing tone in her voice. "Wo acha hai. Kam se kam aaj tak to mujhe cheat nahi kiya." She was clearly teasing me about Avantika, and she added, "But there's only one thing I don't like. He's Very dominating. How do you mean? I asked. She started sharing everything about Mihir, his dominating nature, the way he treats her, and how he was super possessive about everything. Yet she also mentioned that deep down, he did care for her in his own way. I asked her, "To, why don't you leave him?" She replied, "I'm just waiting for things to get better. We're trying to sort things out." I started to realize that she seemed to be over-investing in him, while he didn't even seem to value her. It felt like she was dating someone who was always too busy for her. And it made me realize that Mihir was often too caught up in his own world to appreciate what he had. Closer than ever, farther than before. We were at a point where our conversations had no altars. We could talk about anything, whether it was her family, her annoying boyfriend, or the random chaos in our daily lives. Nothing felt off limits, and that level of comfort made everything easier. And honestly, that's what I had always wanted from Tanishka. A space where we could talk about anything, no pretenses, just us being real. One night, in the middle of our usual late-night conversation, I nally asked her, "Can we be best friends again?" And with a teasing smile, she replied, "Yeah, but only if Avantika doesn't come back into your life." I asked for just one promise, a small one. No matter who comes or who goes, we don't break this bond. If you ever feel it slipping, just look a little closer. Don't let us fade. And she assured with, "Promise, I am not gonna break. Was all I ever wanted, a best friend in my life." But as they say, once you get what you want, you start expecting more. Day by day, talking to Tanishka became my habit. It was like my morning coffee, essential, energizing, and sometimes a little too much. But as much as I enjoyed our conversations, I couldn't help but wonder if getting too close was harmful. I started thinking that maybe this habit was turning into something I couldn't live without. But Tanishka was in a totally different boat, trying to keep her relationship afloat while I was secretly wishing it would hit an iceberg. It's not that I wasn't happy seeing her happy. I just couldn't stand that guy. She deserved better, much better than the one she was dating. The mistake of regular conversations out every day, Mihir would do something ridiculous, and I'd have to listen to the entire story. Tanishka, of course, would narrate it like the latest episode of a soap opera. "Basu, tujhe pata hai aaj kya kiya Mihir ne?" And then I'd get the full episode. It became a regular thing. Me, sitting there like her unpaid therapist, while she described Mihir's latest antics. Honestly, it felt like I was stuck in a never-ending sitcom, where Mihir played the lead, and I was the unfortunate audience who didn't even sign up for the show. Days went by, and the toxicity between Tanishka and Mihir only intensified. Long distance. Relationships were hard enough, but with Mihir, no distance seemed far enough to escape his overbearing nature. He constantly criticized Tanishka's habits, always asking her to change. It was like he wanted to mold her into someone else. An orthodox, controlling guy who needed everything done his way. He even decided who she could follow on Instagram or which pictures she was allowed to post. One night, we were on a call, and I could sense something was off. She sounded distant, quieter than usual. I tried asking her what was wrong, but she brushed it off at RST. It wasn't until the fth time I asked that she nearly broke down, and I heard her sobbing through the phone. I didn't even need to ask. I knew it was Mihir. The same reason she'd been upset so many times before. Without hesitation, I said, "Leave him, Tanishka. वैसे भी, शक्ल से लेके अकल तक, उसका कुछ भी ठीक नहीं है. You deserve better, yaar. It's better if you leave him." I paused for a second and then added, "And wait, weren't you the one who gave me that whole TED talk about love in moderation? What happened to that, huh? Please, dude, do you really think you deserve this? Come on, Tanishka. You deserve way more than some guy who treats you like this." She replied, her voice soft and shaky. "I'm trying, but nahi ho pa raha hai. I need time to leave him. It's not that easy. There was a pause on the line, and I could feel her struggle through the silence. Sensing the heaviness in her voice, I quickly tried to switch the conversation, hoping to lighten the mood. Chal, let's talk about something else. By the way, did you nally watch that new show I recommended, or are you still stuck on your so-called boring cartoon? Oh wait, sorry. Your beloved anime series? I teased, throwing in a bit of sarcasm to make her smile. Nothing seemed to work at Arist. She was still lost in her thoughts. But after some effort, after throwing in a few more jokes and teasing her about her anime obsession, I narrowly managed to bring a small smile to her face. It wasn't much, but at that moment, it felt like a win. Engineering chaos and birthday blues, and here I was, battling every subject and every professor, just praying for this term to end. I mean, I couldn't stand another engineering subject. Like seriously, these engineers with their obsession over numbers and equations. If solving alien math problems was their thing, why didn't they just stick to their engineering labs? What are they avendoing here in an MBA, writing love letters to calculus? And Nally, after surviving 8 brutal exams, 2 per day, I scribbled my way through the end term. I walked into my RST class of the second term, thinking, finally, a fresh start. And what do I see on the board? QM, full of X, Y, Alpha, Beta, Sigma. Seriously, it felt like they were running some secret boot camp for engineers. I somehow survived 4 more lectures, each professor more confusing than the previous. By the UI, end of the week, I realized I was wrong about the second semester being easier. With more engineering subjects and more alien math, I still had no clue what Sigma actually meant. Amid all this academic chaos, the most consistent part of my life was listening to Tanishka rant about Mihir's latest acts of possessiveness and controlling behavior. It had officially become part of my routine, engineering subjects by day and Mihir's greatest hits by night. And then, October crept in quietly, my birthday month. But honestly, I don't know what beef God has with my birthday. Every year, it's either the best or the worst thing, no in between. And the only way to figure out which one it is? Well, you've got to survive the whole year just to know. I had enough surprises, though. I thought to myself, for the last 3 years, it felt like something chaotic happened every October. So, here's to 2023. Please just be good to me. As October rolled in, companies buzzed onto campus like bees to honey, clipboard in hand and checklists at the ready. After doing over 100 iterations of our resumes, everyone in the campus was hoping for the shortlists. But let's be real. It was all a game of luck until you sat for that personal interview. Each company had its own set of absurdities. Some wanted to maintain gender ratios and would only shortlist female candidates, while others seemed to have mysterious criteria that only they understood. But I found no company that was actually looking for candidates who could perform T-tests with pen and paper. Instead, I was left wondering if my skills in Excel and PowerPoint would ever see the light of day in this madness. Amidst this chaos, I got a notification on my phone. Your parcel has been delivered. Confused, I blinked at the screen. I hadn't ordered anything. My curiosity piqued. I made my way to the parcel collection area. When I opened the package in my room, I was greeted by a bottle of perfume and some skincare products. Yes, I was the kind of guy who dabbled in a V-step skincare routine, but only a select few knew about it. My thoughts drifted to Pavni and Palak. Those 2 clowns had never even given me a free pen, so where on earth did this come from? It didn't take long to connect the dots. Without a second thought, I snapped a picture of the gift and sent it to Tanishka with a quick thank you. "Ought you might be expecting a watch, right?" she replied. "Why's that?" I asked, genuinely curious. "You don't remember Avantika's line?" she teased. "When she gifted you that watch, she said, 'If you give someone a watch, you're also giving them a piece of your time.'" I replied, "Yad Aya, absolutely," she shot back. "But I think she was just keeping track of how much time you wasted on her." I couldn't help but smile at her teasing. Playful banter was exactly what I needed to cut through the stressful week. Here, I was, drowning in company rejections and October chaos, yet Tanishka somehow knew how to make things feel lighthearted again. And so, as Dev navigates this tangled web of emotions and choices, we reach the end of Part 3 of Can We Be Strangers? Again, he's faced with truths he never expected, and the path forward is anything but clear. The lines between friendship and love have blurred, and the cost of his decisions is becoming painfully evident. What does the future hold for Dev, Avantika, and Tanishka? Will the past continue to dictate their present, or can new beginnings truly emerge from the ashes of what was lost? Join us next time for Part 4, as Dev's journey continues, and he confronts the ultimate question. Can we ever truly be strangers again, once we've known each other so deeply? And don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next part.